Dear my esteemed viewers, welcome to my channel. In today's episode of World Wonders, I present to you facts about the Great Wall of China, which is one of the best architectural marvels of the world, constructed by the Chinese dynasty's rule between 200 BC and 1644. The Great Wall of China is a series of fortifications that were built across the historical northern borders of ancient Chinese states and Imperial China as protection against various nomadic groups from the Eurasian steppe. Several walls were built from as early as the 7th century BC, with selected stretches later joined together by Qin Shi Huang, 220 up to 206 BC, the first emperor of China. Little of the Qin Wall remains. Later on, many successive dynasties built and maintained multiple stretches of border walls. The best-known sections of the wall were built by the Ming Dynasty, 1368 up to 1644. Apart from defense, other purposes of the Great Wall have included border controls, allowing the imposition of duties on goods transported along the Silk Road, regulation or encouragement of trade, and the control of immigration and emigration. Furthermore, the defensive characteristics of the Great Wall were enhanced by the construction of watchtowers, troop barracks, garrison stations, signaling capabilities through the means of smoke or fire, and the fact that the path of the Great Wall also served as a transportation corridor. The frontier walls built by different dynasties have multiple courses. Collectively, they stretch from Liaodong in the east to Lot Lake in the west, from the present-day Sino-Russian border in the north to Tao River Taoihe in the south, along an arc that roughly delineates the edge of the Mongolian steppe, spanning 21,196.18 kilometers, 13,170.70 miles in total. Today, the defensive system of the Great Wall is generally recognized as one of the most impressive architectural feats in history. The Great Wall of China stretches westward across the provinces and municipalities of Liaoning, Hebei, Tianjin, Beijing, Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, Shaanxi, and Ningxia Autonomous Region to Gansu in the west. The Great Wall of China can be visited at many places along its length of several thousand kilometers. Its condition ranges from excellent to ruined, and ease of accessibility varies straightforward to quite difficult. Note that different sections also each have their own admission fees. For example, if you want to hike from Jinshaling to Simitai, then you probably have to pay twice. Great Wall of China, Chinese, Pinyin, Wanli Changcheng or Wei Zhao's romanization, Wanli Chiang, 10,000 li long wall, extensive work erected in ancient China, one of the largest building construction projects ever undertaken. The Great Wall actually consists of numerous walls, many of them parallel to each other, built over some 2 millennia across northern China and southern Mongolia. The most extensive and best preserved version of the wall dates from the Ming Dynasty, 1368 up to 1644, and runs for some 5,500 miles, 8,850 kilometers east to west from Mount Hu near Liandong, southeastern Liaoning Province, to Jiayu Pass west of Duquan, northwestern Gansu Province. This wall often traces the crest lines of hills and mountains as it snakes across the Chinese countryside, and about 1/4 of its length consists solely of natural barriers such as rivers and mountain ridges. Nearly all of the rest, about 70% of the total length, is actual constructed wall, with the small remaining stretches constituting ditches or moats. Although lengthy sections of the wall are now in ruins or have disappeared completely, it is still one of the more remarkable structures on Earth. The Great Wall was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987. Large parts of the fortification system date from the 7th through the 4th century BCE. In the 3rd century BCE, Shi Huangdi, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a united China under the Qin dynasty, connected a number of existing defensive walls into a single system. Traditionally, the eastern terminus of the wall was considered to be Shanhai Pass, Shanhaiegun, in eastern Hebei province along the coast of the Bohai, Gulf of Chile, and the wall's length, without its branches and other secondary sections, was thought to extend for some 4,160 miles, 6,700 kilometers. However, government-sponsored investigations that began in the 1990s revealed sections of wall in Liaoning, and aerial and satellite surveillance eventually proved that this wall stretched continuously through much of the province. The greater total length of the Ming Wall was announced in 2009. The Great Wall developed from the disparate border fortifications and castles of individual Chinese kingdoms. For several centuries these kingdoms probably were as concerned with protection from their near neighbors as they were with the threat of barbarian invades. About the 7th century BCE, the state of Chu started to construct a permanent defensive system. Known as the Square Wall, this fortification was situated in the northern part of the kingdom's capital province. From the 6th to the 4th century other states followed Chu's example. In the southern part of the Qi state an extensive perimeter wall was gradually created using existing river dikes, newly constructed bulwarks, and areas of impassable mountain terrain. The Qi wall was made mainly of earth and stone and terminated at the shores of the Yellow Sea. In the Zhongshan state a wall system was built to thwart invasion from the states of Zhao and Qin in the southwest. There were two defensive lines in the Wei state, the Hexi, west of the Yellow River, and Henan, south of the river walls. The Hexi Wall was a fortification against the Qin state and western nomads. Built during the reign of King Hu, 370–335 BCE, it was expanded from the dikes on the Luo River on the western border. It started in the south near Xiangyuan Cave, east of Mount Hua, and ended at Guiyang in what is now the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. Henan Wall, built to protect Liang, the capital, now Kaifeng, was repaired and extended in King Huai's later years. The Zheng state also built a wall system, which was rebuilt by the Han state after it conquered Zheng. The state of Zhao completed a southern wall and a northern wall. The southern wall was built mainly as a defense against the Wei state. After administrative reorganization was carried out by Shang Yang, died 338 BCE, the Qin state grew politically and militarily to become the strongest among the 7 states, but it was frequently raided by the Donggu and Lu Fan, two nomadic peoples from the north. Therefore, the Qin erected a wall that started from Linqiao, went north along the Liupan Mountains, and ended at the Huanghe, Yellow River. In the Yan state 2 separate defensive lines were prepared, the Northern Wall and the Yuxi Wall, in an effort to defend the kingdom from attacks by northern groups such as the Donggu, Lianu, and Lu Fan, as well as by the Qi state in the south. The Yuxi Wall was expanded from the dike of the Yi River as a defense line against Qi and Zhao, its two main rival states. It began southwest of Yi City, the capital, and ended south of Wenan. In 290 BCE, the Yan state built a northern wall along the Yan Mountains, starting from the northeast in the area of Zhangjiakou in Hebei, passing over the Liao River, and extending to the ancient city of Xiangping, modern Liaoyang. This was the last segment of the Great Wall to be erected during the Zhengyu, Warring States period. In 221 BCE Shilandi, the first Qin emperor, completed his annexation of Qi and thus unified China. He ordered removal of the fortifications set up between the previous states because they served only as obstacles to internal movements and administration. In addition, he sent General Meng Xian to garrison the northern border against incursions of the nomadic Xiongnu and to link the existing wall segments in Qin, Yan, and Zhao into the so-called 10,000 li long wall, 2 li equal approximately 0.6 mile, 1 kilometer. This period of construction began about 214 BCE and lasted a decade. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers and conscripted workers labored on the project. With the fall of the Qin dynasty after Xilandai's death, however, the wall was left largely ungarrisoned and fell into disrepair. During the reign of the Han Emperor Hudi, 141–87 BCE, the wall was strengthened as part of an overall campaign against the Xiongnu. From that period the Great Wall also contributed to the exploitation of farmland in northern and western China and to the growth of the trade route that came to be known as the Silk Road. In 121 BCE, a 20-year project of construction was started on the Hexi Wall, generally known as the Side Wall, between Yangdang, now in Gansu, in the east and Lake Lopner, now in Xinjiang, in the west. According to Juyan Hanjian, Juyan correspondence of the Han, the strong points set up along the wall included a beacon every 5 li, a tower every 10 li, a fort every 30 li, and a castle every 100 li. The main work on the wall during the Deng Eastern Han period, 25–220 CE, took place during the reign of Liu Zu Guanwudi, who in 38 ordered the repair of 4 parallel lines of the Great Wall in the area south of the Hexi Wall. The Great Wall served not only for defense but also to centralize control of trade and travel. During the Bai Northern Wei Dynasty 386 up to 535 CE, the Great Wall was repaired and extended as a defense against attacks from the Wanwan and Khitan tribes in the north. According to Wei Shu, Mingyuan Diji, History of Wei, Chronicle of Emperor Mingyuan, in 417, the 8th year of the reign of Mingyuandi, 409 up to 423, a part of the Great Wall was built south of Changshuan, from Xikang, now in Hebei, to Wuyuan, now in Inner Mongolia, in the west, extending more than 620 miles, 1,000 kilometers. During the reign of Taiwodi, 423 up to 452, a lower and thinner wall of round earth was built around the capital as a complement to the Great Wall. Starting from Guangling in the east, it extended to the eastern side of the Huanghe, forming a circle around Daodong. In 549, after the Dongwei Kingdom moved its capital east to Yi, it also built a segment of the Great Wall in the area of contemporary Shanxi province. In order to strengthen its northern frontier and prevent invasion from the west by the Baizhou, the Baiqi Kingdom, 550 up to 577, launched several big construction projects that were nearly as extensive in scope as the building projects of the Qin dynasty. In 552, a segment was built on the northwestern border, and only 3 years later the emperor ordered the recruitment of 1.8 million workers to repair and extend other sections. The construction took place between the south entrance of Jiang Pass, near modern Beijing, and Dadong, in Shaanxi. In 556, a new fortification was set up in the east and extended to the Yellow Sea. The following year a second wall was built inside the Great Wall within modern Shanxi, beginning in the vicinity of Laoyang east of Pianguan, extending to the east beyond Yanmen Pass and Pingxing Pass, and ending in the area around Xiaguan in Shanxi. In 563 the Emperor Wu Chengdi of the Baiqi had a segment repaired along the Taihang Mountains. That is the part of the Great Wall found today in the area around Longguan, Guangchang, and Fuping in Shaanxi and Hebei. In 565, the inner wall built in 557 was repaired, and a new wall was added that started in the vicinity of Xiaguan, extended to the Jiang Pass in the east, and then joined to the outer wall. The segments repaired and added during the Baiqi period totaled some 900 miles, 1,500 kilometers, and towns and barracks were established at periodic intervals to garrison the new sections. In 579, in order to prevent invasions of the Baizhou kingdom by the Tuju, a group of Eastern Turks, and the Khitan, the Emperor Jing started a massive rebuilding program on areas of the wall located in the former Baiqi kingdom, starting at Yanmen in the west and ending at Jixi in the east. During the Sui dynasty, 581 up to 618, the Great Wall was repaired and improved 7 times in an effort to defend the country against attacks from the Tuju. After the Tang dynasty, 618 up to 907, replaced the Sui, the country grew much stronger militarily, defeating the Tuju in the north and expanding beyond the original frontier. Thus, the Great Wall gradually lost its significance as a fortification, and there was no need for repairs or additions. During the Song dynasty, 960 up to 1279, however, the Liao Jin peoples in the north were a constant threat. The Song rulers were forced to withdraw to the south of the lines of the Great Wall built by the Qin, Han, and Northern dynasties. Many areas on both sides of the wall were subsequently taken over by the Liao 907 up to 1125 and Jin dynasties 1115 up to 1234. When the Song rulers had to retreat even farther to the south of the Yangtze River, Zhangjiang, repairs to the wall or extensions of it were no longer feasible. Limited repairs were carried out once, 1056 during Liao times, but only in the area between the Yazi and Hantung rivers. In 1115, after the Jin dynasty was established, work was performed on 2 defensive lines at Mingchang. The old wall there, previously called the Wushu Wall, or Jinyuan Fort, ran westward from a point north of Ulanhata, then wound through the Hailatu Mountains, turning to the north and then to the west again, finally ending at the Nuanxi River. The second of the lines was the New Mingchang Wall, also called the Inner Jin Wall or the Jin Trench, which was constructed south of the old wall. It started in the west from a bend in the Huanghe and ended at the Songari, Songhua River. During the Yuan Mongol dynasty, 1206 up to 1368, the Mongols controlled all of China, as well as other parts of Asia and sections of Europe. As a defensive structure, the Great Wall was of little significance to them, however. Some forts in key areas were repaired and garrisoned in order to control commerce and to limit the threat of rebellions from the Chinese, Han, and other nationalities. Rulers during the Ming Dynasty, 1368 up to 1644, ceaselessly maintained and strengthened the Great Wall to prevent another Mongolian invasion. The majority of the work took place along the old walls built by the Baiki and Bai Wei. Most of the Great Wall that stands today is the result of work done during the reign of the Hongzhi Emperor, 1487 up to 1505. Starting west of Jiang Pass, this part of the wall was split into south and north lines, respectively named the inner and outer walls. Along the wall were many strategic passes or fortresses and gates. Among them were Jueyang, Doma, and Zhaijing passes, the three closest to the Ming capital Beijing. Together they were referred to as the three inner passes. Farther west were Yanmen, Ningwu, and Piantu passes, known as the three outer passes. Both the inner and outer passes were of key importance in protecting the capital and were usually heavily garrisoned. After the Qing Manchu Dynasty, 1644 up to 1911 or 12 replaced the Ming, there was a change in ruling strategy called Jieru, Malification, wherein the Qing tried to pacify the leaders and peoples of Mongolia, Tibet, and other nationalities by not interfering with local social, cultural, or religious life. Because of the success of that strategy, the Great Wall was repaired less frequently, and it gradually fell into ruin. The Great Wall had three major components: passes, signal towers, beacons, and walls. Passes were major strongholds along the wall, usually located at such key positions as intersections with trade routes. The ramparts of many passes were faced with huge bricks and stones, with dirt and crushed stones as filler. The bastions measured some 30 feet, 10 meters high and 13 to 16 feet, 4 to 5 meters wide at the top. Within each pass were access ramps for horses and ladders for soldiers. The outside parapet was crenellated, and the inside parapet, or Nuqing, was a low wall about 3 feet, 1 meter high that prevented people and horses from falling off the top. In addition to serving as an access point for merchants and other civilians, the gate within the pass was used as an exit for the garrison to counterattack raiders or to send out patrols. Under the gate arch there was typically a huge double door of wood. Bolts and locker rings were set in the inner panel of each door. On top of each gate was a gate tower that served as a watchtower and command post. Usually it stood 1 to 3 stories levels high and was constructed either of wood or of bricks and wood. Built outside the gate, where an enemy was most likely to attack, was a wengcheng, a semicircular or polygonal parapet that shielded the gate from direct assault. Extending beyond the most strategic wengchengs was an additional line of protection, the luocheng, which was often topped by a tower used to watch those beyond the wall and to direct troop movements in battles waged there. Around the gate entrance there was often a moat that was formed in the process of digging earth to build the fortifications. Signal towers were also called beacons, beacon terraces, smoke mounds, or kiosks. They were used to send military communications, beacon, fires or lanterns during the night or smoke signals in the daytime. Other methods such as raising banners, beating clappers, or firing guns were also used. Signal towers, often built on hilltops for maximum visibility, were self-contained high platforms or towers. The lower levels contained rooms for soldiers, as well as stables, sheepfolds, and storage areas. The wall itself was the key part of the defensive system. It usually stood 21.3 feet, 6.5 meters wide at the base and 19 feet, 5.8 meters at the top, with an average height of 23 to 26 feet, 7 to 8 meters, or a bit lower on steep hills. The structure of the wall varied from place to place, depending on the availability of building materials. Walls were made of tamped earth sandwiched between wooden boards, adobe bricks, a brick and stone mixture, rocks, or pilings and planks. Some sections made use of existing river dikes, others used rugged mountain terrain such as cliffs and gorges to take the place of man-made structures. In the western deserts the walls were often simple structures of rammed earth and adobe. Many eastern ramparts, such as those near Bailing, were faced with stone and included a number of secondary structures and devices. On the inner side of such walls, placed at small intervals, were arched doors called wan, which were made of bricks or stones. Inside each wan were stone or brick steps leading to the top of the battlement. On the top, on the side facing outward, stood 7-foot, 2-meter, high grenelles called duo kuao. On the upper part of the Duokuao were large openings used to watch and shoot at attackers, and on the lower part were small openings, or loopholes, through which defenders could also shoot. At intervals of about 650 to 1,000 feet, 200 to 300 meters, there was a granulated platform rising slightly above the top of the wall and protruding from the side that faced attackers. During battle, the platform provided a commanding view and made it possible to shoot attackers from the side as they attempted to scale the wall with ladders. On several platforms were simply structured huts called pufang, which provided shelter for the guards during storms. Some platforms, as with signal towers, had 2 or 3 stories and could be used to store weapons and ammunition. Those at Badaling commonly had 2 stories, with accommodations for more than 10 soldiers on the lower level. There were also drainage ditches on the walls to shield them from damage by excessive rainwater. Each major stronghold along the wall was hierarchically linked to a network of military and administrative commands. During the rule of Shi Huangdi, 12 prefectures were established along the wall, and in the Ming period the whole fortification was divided into 9 defense areas, or zones. A post chief, Zongbingguan, was assigned to each zone. Together they were known as the 9 border garrisons. The Great Wall has long been incorporated into Chinese mythology and popular symbolism, and in the 20th century it came to be regarded as a national symbol. Above the East Gate, Dongmen at Shanhai Pass is an inscription attributed to the medieval historian Hiao Ziyan, which is translated as "First Pass Under Heaven," referring to the traditional division between Chinese civilization and the barbarian lands to the north. Despite the wall's cultural significance, roadways have been cut through it at several points, and vast sections have suffered centuries of neglect. In the 1970s, a segment near Simotai, 68 miles, 110 kilometers northeast of Beijing, was dismantled for building materials, but it was subsequently rebuilt. Other areas have also been restored, including just northwest of Jiayu Pass at the western limit of the wall, at Yanjiao Pass, some 105 miles, 170 kilometers north of Tianjin, and at Muxianyu, about 55 miles, 90 kilometers northeast of Beijing. The best-known section, at Badaling, 43 miles, 70 kilometers northwest of Beijing, was rebuilt in the late 1950s. It now attracts thousands of national and foreign tourists every day. Portions of the wall around Shanhai Pass and at Mount Hu, the eastern terminus, also had been rebuilt by 2000. Dear viewers, this will bring us to the end of the show. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.